So, in light of everything that we're seeing online as it relates to weight loss and whether or not someone is losing too much weight, I figured that it was finally time for me to share my story. So, as most of you know, I lost 100 pounds, have kept it off for over 10 years. But I think one thing that a lot of people don't know or don't realize, because it was kind of like a blip in my whole over 10-year journey, is that I did get to a point where I had lost way too much weight. I literally looked like a skeleton. And I really want to talk about the psychology behind that and what drove me to get to that point, and how I think that we're in this time where I feel like it's a breeding ground for that to start to happen to a lot of women again, especially because we're seeing the rise of GLP-1s and all these different things that you can use to suppress your appetite. And then we're seeing people get very, very thin. So I felt like I would just come in and share my story and just give some insight and perspective, whether you're someone who is on a GLP-1 or you're someone who is just aiming to lose as much weight as possible, or you're someone who's really caught up in doing cardio. Please take my story as a warning and as a guiding light for you. So for those of you who are not familiar, I lost my weight from the end of 2012 to the end of 2013. I lost the bulk of it, 70 pounds. That was the amount that I lost in that time frame. I took a little time off, and then I came back. In about 6 months, I lost an additional 30 pounds, and that's where you get the 100-pound total weight loss that I've kept off for over 10 years. But a lot of people don't realize that there was a point where I had lost maybe 130 pounds or so. I had gotten very small. I was somewhere in the low 120s. And just for reference, I'm 5'4". Now, the reason I call this the psychology of a big girl who always wanted to be skinny is because I really wanted to try to get into my own mind and think like, what the heck was I thinking back then? Because it was so interesting that I pretty much maintained my initial weight loss for like 2 years or so before I just went into this random episode where for the end of 2016 until almost the end of 2017, I had lost all of this weight. And the way that I lost the weight was by completely swearing off doing anything else. Now, to this point, I had lost my weight with cardio and I had lost it with weight training, right? So there have been a mixture of those two things. So let's say if I had 3 days of lifting in the gym and then the other 2 or maybe even 3 days out of the week, I might go to the park and do like a jog, or I might do a walk or whatever. And that was going just fine for me. I do not know why I decided to go on this mission to get as small as possible. I don't know what the thing was that triggered me, but when I think about it, when you're losing weight and you're trying to get to a weight loss goal, I think I was really happy with the fact that I had hit 100 pounds down. Like that was doing something for me psychologically, but visually in the mirror, I still had a stomach. And so I think that a part of what drove me was really trying to lose my stomach. And I think a lot of women fall into that. And something that I can realize now in hindsight and, being so much further in my career is that yes, I had that stomach, but pushing myself in to do all of this additional cardio to so-called get it to go away was not the right approach. I should have been taking an approach to like recomp my body, for example, instead of choosing this route. So one thing that really messed with my mental was getting on the scale every single day and seeing that my weight was not moving. And I chalked that up to weight training, which again, I was already a professional trainer and I knew this. I knew that the muscle was the reason, and I still actively chose to lose the weight and to swear off doing any type of weightlifting. So I stopped doing weights completely, purposely, so that I could dedicate any and all time that I had for working out or the gym to strictly doing insane amounts of cardio. During that time, a lot of people started to notice how small I was, and people started to make comments, and people started to, ask questions, especially online, because yes, I was here on YouTube and in this live video, which I cannot believe I'm sharing this because I would rather it's not like I privated it or anything, but I would rather just kind of stay there. And if you find it, you find it. If you don't, you don't. But I'm just going to call myself out because I'm trying to save the girls. I'm trying to save the girls from going through what I went through for that year. And so in this live video, I was literally addressing negative comments that I was getting online that were saying, hey, girl, you're too skinny. What's going on? Why are you losing so much weight? Stop. And I wouldn't. And at the time, I was so defensive about the comments. And I can't bring myself to watch this full video. Maybe before I put this video out, I'll go back and watch it and I'll leave a comment or something to let y'all know. But in the video, I just know that I was just sitting there defending myself. Like, don't let anybody tell you that you're too small and people are just used to seeing you big. And these are the things I was saying while I was clearly looking. I mean, you can see, do you see my face? I was just gaunt in the face. My arm was like so small. My wrist all the way up to my shoulder was like the same size. I was so incredibly small. Since I was also an instructor at this time, I would be at the gym, often. If I wasn't teaching, I would be taking other people's classes. Me and my best friend would go and take classes. And so there was this spin class that we used to take with this guy at a gym. And again, all of us as instructors are friendly and friends, and we know each other and we know that we teach and stuff. So she told me this later, but after class one day, he had pulled her aside and asked, was I okay? He was wondering if I was sick, if I had, something going on. Like, people were thinking that I was like terminally ill at the gym. And meanwhile, I'm just la 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 la. I'm skinny, skinny legend. Like, I'm so in that mindset that I'm just like not even recognizing. I'm sure people were even looking at me like, girl, are you okay? There was another instructor who I considered to be like a really great mentor to me whenever I started to first teach body pump. And he even made a comment to me and said like, hey, are you okay? Like, I think he had said something to the effect of like, you're working out too much, like kind of trying to make it like a little bit of a joke, and I took it as the joke. Like, I was like, ha, I'm so skinny. You see me? I'm lean. Like, that's how I took it. Like, I wasn't catching the hint. And then there was another guy who was also an instructor. He taught a class called Body Combat. And on Saturdays, I would go and I would take like 3 to 4 classes in the morning, all the morning classes that the gym had, back to back. Then I would go downstairs and do my own separate workout. So when this instructor was done teaching the last class, he was coming downstairs and he saw me. And I mean, the way his face, he looked horrified. He looked how Jillian Michaels and Bob Harper looked when Rachel came out. He was like, what are you doing? And that's when he started asking me, he was like, is everything okay with you? I think he made the comment like, you're thin, like you're pretty thin. And I'm so glad he said that because his comment was a part of what really made me change things. The other guy who was more like my mentor, I wasn't catching his hint. Like, I really was like, hee hee ha ha. I thought we was kikiing about me being so lean. I wasn't catching what he was saying. But for this guy to say, I see you and I'm noticing that you're very thin, I think that was like the first spark that was kind of like, okay, maybe this is not the best. Another thing that was really contributing to my delusion was honestly my family. I think because they had seen me be a big girl almost forever, that when I started to lose weight, they just really wanted to be as supportive as possible. And they had been supportive again, because remember, this is 2 years removed from my initial weight loss. So this is almost like I'm on like a new, weight loss journey. And I remember I was at my mom's house and I had gone into the kitchen and my brother was like, I had come home. So he was like, dang, he was like, you are so tiny. He kept saying that you are so tiny. And he's like, I can literally just pick you up. And that's what he did. Like y'all, I was so small. He just like, huh. And he plays football and stuff, right? So he picks me up and just like moves me. And y'all, let me tell you, that didn't do anything but further feed the delusion. I was like, oh my gosh, you're picking me up. Like it was like giving me life. Like I was feeding off of it. All of the comments of like, oh, you're so tiny. You're so like that was doing something to my brain. And I think that part of it kind of comes from this thing that had always been in the back of my mind with my grandmother. My grandmother was the reason, remember, well, if you've been following me for a while, I started my weight loss journey with doing a 5K in honor of my grandmother who had passed away from breast cancer. And she passed away when I was a child. So years and years ago. But I wanted to do this in honor of her because I used to walk the races and I wanted to run it for her this time. And that was like the start of my journey. But another thing about my grandmother is, for one, just beautiful. Okay. Just the most classic beauty you have ever seen. Okay. gorgeous. But the way I remember my granny is being thin, like I don't know why I remember her size so much, but something about her being a size 4 just, really stuck in my head. And something about the way I viewed my grandmother as being just like elegant and feminine and I don't know, excellent, in so many different ways. I thought I needed to have that same kind of smaller physique, maybe to exude those same things. I don't know. Again, I'm just talking it out with y'all to try to figure out how I even got to this point. But I think that was a part of it was in the back of my mind, especially the size thing. But I did not just get to a size 4. I didn't even just get to a size 2. I didn't even get to just a size 0. I was wearing a size 00. At my heaviest weight, I was wearing a size 24. Do you get that? I was wearing a 00. It had gone way too far, and I refused to see it. In my mind, if you go back and look at that YouTube video, I'm sure I was in there talking. I might have been saying people was hating. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed if I was, but I might have been saying that. What is the psychology behind that type of thought process when it comes to weight loss? Is it the societal pressures? Is it, and I think when you're a bigger girl, I do think that there's like this lingering desire to just see what it would be like for you to be skinny. I think that a lot of bigger girls just want to have that experience and see what it's like. So I think that's a big driver as well. I think the body type, I think a lot of women who are endomorphs or tend to carry a lot of weight in areas that they don't want it. And for a lot of women, that's different places. Like some women wouldn't mind if they had a little extra in the butt, but some women want to lose their butt in their hips and they're over it and it's too much. So whatever this is the main thing. The problem areas that you have, those people who have those problem areas that they can't get rid of in terms of body fat, I think those are the people who end up doing too much and exercising themselves to a point where they're just skinny everywhere. Because, and even if that wasn't the desire, at least they were able to get rid of the problem area, but then they also lost everything else. One story that I have never told publicly when it comes to this is about me actually passing out from all of this. So again, I'm a professional trainer. Actually, the day that this happened, I had a class to teach, which kind of was a part of the reason why this ended up happening. So let me explain. I used to teach corporate wellness for a bunch of big companies in Houston, and I also taught at big box gyms. And so what that meant is like my day consisted of a lot of driving from one site to the next site to the next site, take a break here. It's just a lot of like moving around. So for me to get my workout in, I would have to either choose a site where I could get my workout in or, or choose some place in between where I can get my workout, right? But at this time, I was so obsessed with losing this weight that I was literally running 10 miles several times a week. Several times a week. And so this was going to be one of my longer runs. I think this run may have been like a 7-mile run that I was going out on. But because I had this class that I had to teach at like 4 p.m. or something, I had a break in between one class that I had taught maybe around noon. And then I had the class I was going to teach at 4. And so this was my opportunity to go and run. Well, this just so happened to be in the dead of summer in Houston, Texas. But I needed to get this run. Do you understand what I needed it? I needed to get this run in. Did it make sense? Did it go against everything that I knew being a trainer? Like, of course. But you don't understand. This is the psychology of a big girl who always wanted to be skinny. So I was going to get this run in by any means necessary. And so I did. I went on my break and I remember my route. I ran out. I usually will run out, my first half or whatever. So let's say I run out 3 or 4 miles and then I run those miles back. So I run out my first half or whatever. And as I'm coming, kind of exiting the park to where there's this Starbucks, I start to realize that I'm not good. And I'm like, I need water. Like, I can't really breathe like that. Like I'm just a mess. Okay. Mind you, I hate to say this. This is so embarrassing. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it. I had on a waist trainer. Listen, the psychology. Okay. It was up here. Okay. Dead of summer. Yes. Dead of the afternoon. Yes. Houston, Texas. Yes. Okay. Get to the Starbucks. There's somebody in line doing their order, and I'm starting to tell the girl, can you just give me a cup of water? And I think I did tell her that. I said, can you just please give me a cup of water? And she turns to get it, and that's the last thing that I remember. I was out. I had full on passed out in this Starbucks. When I opened my eyes, there were all the customers and people and everything around me, and they were saying, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm sweating, just pouring sweat. And they call 911. So the fire truck comes, and y'all, they sent like 10 or 12. I mean, it seemed like it would have to be at least six, I'm gonna say. Let me not say 10 or 12, because that's insane. But there were like six firefighters. Like, they're just all around me. Like, are you okay? What happened? And they're asking me the questions that make sense. Have you eaten anything today? Are you hydrated? How many miles did you go out for today? When I told them the number, I don't remember the exact, but I know it was over 6 miles because I just know myself. They were like, it's too hot for that. Y'all. So they want to take me to the hospital, all of that. I was like, I'm fine. Came to, got water. I walked the rest of the way back to the car and went home. But when you see people who they're on, a GLP-1, and you're trying to tell them like, it's not even necessarily about the GLP-1. It's more so about like what you're doing to your body, and it doesn't take a GLP-1 to do it, clearly, because I just did it with just willpower. Pure willpower and a desire to be in the smallest body possible. So you can absolutely, that's why when people make the argument of like, they try to just only blame the GLP-1, I'm like, well, this same version of like rapid weight loss where you're deteriorating muscle and you're just like getting too skinny. These things happen not only just from GLP-1s, it can happen with just having a very, very restrictive amount of calories and over exercising as well. And so I know what these people feel like when they get to that and when they achieve that. And I know the mindset that's in that. And I know how it feels to step on the scale and see 120. What? When I'm used to seeing 250, almost 260, and now the scale is saying 120. I think, also a certain era, if you're from a certain era, then that 120 pound size 4, that's kind of like, that's like etched in your brain. And so I was getting my daily dose of just like dopamine, motivation to stay that size by continuing to see that number on the scale and being so enamored with it, and like staring at myself in the mirror and just like couldn't believe my stomach looked how it looked, and like turning to the side, and it's like you're just like, whoa, I didn't know that my body could do this or could look like this. So I absolutely understand how somebody on a GLP-1 can get to a point where they take it too far. And I also understand how they can become incredibly defensive about it, right? Because it's like, well, damn. You didn't like it when I was big. You said something about that. Now I got this small, and that's not good either. And it's like, yeah, hate to break it to you, being that big was not going to be healthy, but being this small is not healthy either. And you have to get yourself to a point where you can accept that and take yourself to a place where you're at a healthy medium, which is where I 100% am now and have been for a very, very long time, because that was literally a blip in my fitness journey that happened. I don't even think it lasted a full year, but I think it was definitely about 9 months or so. So after that instructor made the comment to me about just being too thin, I don't know exactly when it happened, but I started to lift weights again. I started to lift weights again, and I started to really focus on building back the muscle that I had lost. And that became more of my obsession. So it meant that I had to pull back from the amount of cardio that I was doing. It meant that I wasn't going to be able to go out on these 10-mile runs. It meant I had to eat. And most importantly, it meant that I had to gain weight and be okay with it. So I had to sit there and watch the scale go up and up and up and up. And I had to start changing my perspective to celebrate when the scale was going up. Talk about a mind F. A few months into me putting on this weight, I got a call from a producer for the Dr. Oz show. And they said that they wanted me to submit an audition video to be possibly selected to be on a competition to be the next great trainer on the show. And when I looked back at those dates and saw, when all of this was happening, when I got the phone call, I said, I understand why it happened that way, because God was not about to bless no mess. He was like, you're not going to get on TV and start like spewing this nonsense. And I have noticed that has been a part of my journey as a whole, which is why I know that this is my purpose that I'm operating in. Because every time that I go through something, it's a lesson that I bring back here and I tell you guys about, from the original weight loss journey to the things that I'm telling you more recently about hormones and about sleep and holistic health and keeping some muscle on your body. All of those things have been birthed from my own experiences. I guess that's how I learned. So God is just like, look. So once I got that muscle back on me, I started feeling good, fit, and healthy. I got the call from the producer and I literally had to, in real time, because it was so time sensitive. She's like, can you do the video today? And I'm like, oh my gosh. I was on site. Like I told you guys, I was working for all these different companies in Houston. So I happened to be on site that day. I was working with someone else at that gym site, a guy, and I literally had to ask him to wear his shirt because I want to say that she told me I needed to be wearing a black shirt for the recording. I had to put his shirt on and like tie it to make it look a certain type of way. If I can find the video, I'll put it in here. And you can see that by that time, and even if you just go and see my episode of Dr. Oz, you'll see my weight difference and you see that I put all the muscle back on. Now, this is my warning to the women who are in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s. You are taking a GLP-1, you're considering taking one, or you're doing a low-calorie diet, you're avoiding doing weight training, anything that could potentially get you into the situation that I'm in. I just want to talk to you from my professional perspective now and to just like girl to girl. Please do not make my mistake. I made that mistake when I was a lot younger, and I'm so grateful that I did. Let me tell you why. Every year, the older you get, past 30, it might be 30, might be 35, you lose muscle. It is a part of aging. It is so hard to put on muscle once you get older. I made that little mistake, had that year where I just burnt through my muscle and I put it back on, and now I've got the most muscle I've ever had in my life. Now I would say I have my most muscular physique at this moment. But a part of what saved me, or a part of what was my saving grace, was the fact that I had made this mistake when I was so young. If you are 40, 50, 60, you don't have the capacity to potentially build all that muscle back. It's certainly not going to be as easy. So no matter where you are, if you can look at yourself and say, you know what, I'm going about this the wrong way. Or, you know what, I can admit that I am too small. I can admit that this doesn't look healthy. Do something about it now. Don't sit on this video for another 6 months, another year, because not to scare you, but the clock is ticking. And especially if you happen to be a woman of color, especially if you're a Black woman, please know that we have one of the highest incidents of hip replacement. You do not want to be a fragile, little tiny thing with no muscle on you. And I'm not talking about people who are naturally skinny. It's so different. Just look at all of the videos that I've shown you. It's so different. You can see the way that I looked. You can understand why people were coming up to me and saying, "Are you okay?" It didn't look healthy. It wasn't healthy. And I wasn't healthy during that time period. So I encourage you to not chase a number on the scale, to not chase a size, but to chase being the healthiest version of yourself. I'll see y'all next time.